Call you back in 3. Call you back in 2. Call you back in 1. Today is Monday, September 14th. We are going to be starting our nonverbal communication lectures. We're basically going to be working on nonverbal communication all week long because it's super, super important. It might even actually go over a week because it's super important. There's lots of materials that I have to share with y'all. All that good stuff. So the very first thing I'm going to ask y'all to do is, if you have not already done so as your warm-up, click on this assignment. It is our nonverbal notes. You will not be able to edit this, so what do you need to do?
Make a copy.
Make a copy by going to File
Or request access.
and make a copy. Do not request access because I will deny you. Okay. So make a copy of it, and then it should open in another tab. Close my tab with my original one, and then you can edit the copy that you made. Are you all there? Because I'm ready to start.
No, not even there yet. I think we're missing something.
Ah, y'all had 5 minutes to do this. Yeah, this is part of your warm-up.
Wait, what?
Every single day, as a warm-up, y'all come in here, open up your Chromebooks, log into the virtual classroom, and try to make copies of whatever assignments I give y'all.
Can I go like get a fan?
No.
Yeah, I know where that is. Monday through Sundays.
All right, I'm ready to start. If y'all aren't, then y'all just too slow. So let's keep going.
Who's picking their nose?
All right. So non-verbal communication. Let's make sure that our sidebar conversations are off. We are demonstrating good audience etiquette during a lecture, which, ladies, means that y'all aren't speaking right now. All right. So nonverbal communication is super, super important. That's why we are spending more than a week on this, because it is the most important type of communication you can learn about. It accounts for a lot of every single message, and it's just really helpful to be able to read people's nonverbals. So what is communication? Well, communication is a system, or nonverbal communication is a system of symbolic behaviors that includes all forms of communication except words. So some of y'all give me some nonverbal communication examples. It's waving, giving a thumbs up, doing the dab, thumbs down. What about in this area? Yeah, facial expressions, a smile, your body language, posture. What about how I say words? That counts as nonverbal as well. Certain stress on a word, raising my voice, lowering my voice, speaking fast or speaking slow. This is all nonverbal communication. They're symbolic behaviors that includes all forms of communication, except for the words themselves. So we're going to look at some symbolic behaviors in a fun and entertaining way. We attach meaning to certain symbolic behaviors. That's just what we do. That's what makes an impression funny. So if you ever try to have an impression of somebody or do an impression of somebody, then you are looking at those symbolic behaviors. You're looking at that nonverbal communication in order to portray that person. Okay? Which is what this gentleman does, but he does it with animals. It is all.
I want to see how animals eat their food. Watch closely. Moo!
It's so good. You're my favorite. My favorite. Jump away.
All right. So call you back in 3. Call you back in 2. Call you back in 1. So here we have somebody portraying certain animals and how they eat. Okay. Obviously, that's not how those animals eat, but he was just trying to give those symbolic behaviors of what they do. All right. So moving on, we're going to be talking about percentages of nonverbal communication. Okay. And this is why, and this is how you can see why this is really important for y'all to listen to and why I'm spending a whole entire week and maybe longer on this topic. 65 to 93% is the amount of meaning attributed to nonverbal communication in a message. Meaning 93% of whatever message you're sending to somebody, 93% of it is nonverbal communication. That means that only 7% of your message is the actual words that you say. So that's why it's super hard for us to read a text message if it doesn't have an emoji tied to it. That's super hard for us just to read a text message with nothing tied to it to show us any kind of emotion or anything. Okay? That's why it's really hard if I was to write "I'm fine" on a piece of paper and pass it to you. You're not going to get 93% of that message because you're not seeing any of my nonverbals going on. Okay? Yes?
What's his name? The video guy? Is it Mr. Epic?
I don't know off the top
You
of my
unlock
head.
YouTube so I can subscribe.
No. You can subscribe later after my class. Okay? So do y'all see why it's super, super important to understand nonverbal communication? I could literally not say a single word to you and still be able to communicate with you. Because 93% of my messages is through nonverbal communication. Only 7% is the actual words that I'm saying.
So technically we can survive without talking.
Yes,
Which means we don't all talk.
exactly.
I didn't talk all of them.
Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about packing up a suitcase. So I want you to think about sending a message to somebody as if you're packing a suitcase. All right? How are you going to pack that suitcase? You got your words. You're putting your words in your suitcase. But then you're also going to include like maybe a facial expression, maybe a gesture. Okay? Maybe you're going to pack a certain stress on one of those words. So, no. So, for example, we've all heard somebody say, "I'm fine." All right? They've said the sentence, "I'm fine." But there's so many different ways you can say that sentence. There's so many different ways you can pack that sentence or that suitcase for that sentence. Okay? So let's say I'm packing my suitcase with the word "I'm fine" or the words "I'm fine," but I'm packing a stressed voice. I'm packing my posture is really bad, and then I'm packing, I don't know, a really angry face. What is that telling you? When you unpack that suitcase, what are you getting?
You're annoyed.
That's you're not happy, okay? That you're not fine. So here's my not fine suitcase message. I'm fine. Okay, that does not seem like I'm fine. Now let's pack a suitcase a different way. Same words. I'm fine. But now I have a smile. Now I'm bouncy. Okay? Now what am I saying? I'm fine.
Sarcasm.
Okay.
After that video,
Like I'm fine.
after that video,
Yeah.
I'm watching like
Okay.
50 times.
So you have to be able to realize, listen, y'all, you have to be able to realize that you have to encode and figure out how you're going to tell somebody something not only with the words that you're going to say, but also your nonverbals as well. And sometimes our nonverbals just come out. We don't even have to think about it. They just automatically happen. That's why you can sometimes tell when somebody's lying to you, because their nonverbals are going to give them away. Can you think of a time that you are ever not communicating?
Never.
Raise your hand. Somebody tell me. Yeah.
When they're asleep.
But what if I was to walk in the room and you were sleeping? What am I going to think? Really, when you're sleeping, you're still communicating in some kind of way. Because if somebody was to walk into your room, they're going to be like, oh, that person's asleep. I got to be quiet.
Or really, really loud.
Or really loud to wake them up.
And if they're snoring, right back.
Okay? You also, don't you have dreams when you sleep? Normally?
No, I haven't had a
I
dream
did.
since kindergarten.
Okay. So you are also communicating in your dreams with your subconscious.
I've had a dream.
So a lot of people come up with the excuse, well, I don't communicate when I'm sleeping. Yeah, you kind of do.
You don't communicate.
Where?
Can't communicate.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah, you can't do it.
Jesus.
Yeah, maybe you can. Maybe you could be one of those nice little spirits that walks around and talks to people. Okay? So there are two functions of nonverbal communication. Here we go. I think you'll have to write this down. Number one function is how it relates to verbal communication. So your nonverbal communication is going to connect in some way to your verbal message. Okay? Whether it's going to be reinforcing your message or adding something entirely new to the message. The number two function is that it's going to convey emotional relationship dimensions of a message. Or emotional or relationship dimensions of a message. So, basically, through your nonverbal communication, I can tell what type of emotional stuff is going on with you. Okay? It's a slash. We'll count this and as a slash. So through your nonverbal communication, I can see what type of mood you're in. I can see what emotions are going on with you. I can also see through your nonverbal communication what types of relationships that you have between other people. Because y'all communicate differently with different people. If you like somebody, you're going to communicate with them in a different way. Y'all's nonverbals are going to be going off the charts.
What?
Nonverbals. When you like somebody, y'all might giggle. Girls will giggle a lot more, and they'll laugh at stuff that's not funny.
Why the chicken Why the chicken cost more? Yeah. If you want to figure out something like
A guy will act tougher. All right. Call you back in 3. Call you back 2. Call you back 1. So now let's talk about types of nonverbal cues. So there's cues that go on when you are using nonverbal communication. The first cue that you use, or cue that you use, is repetition. So with your nonverbal cues, you can repeat your message to a person that you've already made verbally. So when I say hi and then I wave my hand, okay, I'm repeating the word hi just by using the gesture of waving my hand. Because if I was not to say hi and I was to wave my hand, do you still know what I'm saying?
No.
Exactly. So you're basically repeating yourself through your nonverbal communication. The next one is contradiction. This is when you can tell when somebody's lying to you. They can contradict a message that the individual is trying to convey. Meaning, if somebody says that they were fine and it was clearly not fine, they're contradicting their words because their nonverbals aren't matching the words. Then finally you have, another one you have is substitution. They can substitute a verbal message for something else. So for again, example, if I'm saying hi, I can just do this. And you automatically know what I'm doing. So I've substituted the word hi.
That kind of looks like from over here.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Whoa.
Okay. How do you communicate with somebody in a car to roll down their window? What do you do?
Tell them to.
Or when I go, or you just breaking.
Or if
You
they're
just
sitting
go.
in the passenger side.
You ask.
Dang, son. Why do you scream for
Okay.
this?
No, you just go like this, and hopefully, back in the day, it used to be this. Because we used to have like
Yeah.
manual windows. Let's roll it down. Those are fun days. All right.
Call you back at 3. Call you back at 2. Call you back at 1. All right, now everybody be quiet, please.
So here's a substitute example. Listen, y'all. Artists use substitution a lot in order to communicate with you. Okay? They don't necessarily have to use their words. They can use like their body movements or what it is that they're actually painting to be able to communicate effectively with you. So in this video,
How about walk?
these people, they're telling a story. They're telling a story without words at all. They're just using body movement. Are y'all ready to watch it? Fantastic. Let's watch.
Spent a lifetime stuck in silence, afraid you'll say something wrong. If no one ever hears it, how we gonna learn this song? So come on, come on, come on, come on. You got a heart as loud as mine, so I let your voice be safe. Baby, we're a little different. There's no need to be ashamed. You got the light to fight the shadows, so stop hiding it away. I wanna sing, I wanna shout, I wanna scream till the words dry out. So put it all on the page. I'm not afraid. They can read all about it, read all about it. Oh, 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 oh.
What is this?
So come on, come on. Come on, come on, let's get the TV and the radio to play our true again. It's about time we got some airplay of our version of events. There's no need to be afraid. I will sing with you in my breath. Come on, come on. I wanna sing, I wanna shout, I wanna scream till the words die out. All of the papers, I'm not afraid. Goodbye, read all about it. Oh, 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 oh. I wanna sing, I wanna shine.
I want to watch that now.
Okay.
Did you see
The animal one.
So, y'all, are y'all listening? Call me back at 3. Call me back 2. Call me back at 1. All right. So, again, did they have to say anything to display that story?
No.
No, you know exactly what happened. All they did was use their bodies and the shadows of their bodies, okay? And it created a beautiful story. So, sometimes verbal communication is just unnecessary.
Wait.
So,
What about the song?
I don't know. So, some other cues that we have is complimenting. They may add or complement a verbal message. So, like, if I was going to say, hey, good job, I might pat you on the back. If Corona wasn't a thing. Yeah. But I would pat you on the back and, you know, I'd say great job. And that's me complimenting the words great job by using that nonverbal communication. You can also accent one where you just underline a verbal message or show intensity. So if I was to put a stress on a word using nonverbal communication, I would maybe pound on the table when I said no. So, for example, I'll be like, I said no.
No.
Hey, I said no.
Okay? So you can accent that word no by adding that pounding on a table.
Oh, no. He's dead. He's dead.
What are you saying?
No.
All right. Moving on. Are y'all okay to move on?
No.
I'm not going too fast.
Watch the video again.
Where's accent?
Accent, it should be
My spaghetti.
right here.
My
8.
spaghetti.
What?
Oh, I didn't see the chocolate.
You could just scroll down.
Should be 8.
I just
All right.
huge.
Now we're going to talk about nonverbal characteristics. Well, guess what? Nonverbals are very subconscious. We are often not even aware of the messages we send nonverbally. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're smiling at somebody until we think about it. Or you don't even realize. Sometimes I'll make this face. Just, I don't know. And I won't even know that I'm making it. And then somebody will come up to me and they're like, Miss, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. Let me fix my face real quick. Okay. A really funny example is going to be when Stranger Things, they won an award. If you watch Winona Ryder, and I'll show you who Winona Ryder is if you don't know who she is. She has the weirdest facial expressions, and I don't know if she's meaning to have those facial expressions or why she's even giving these facial expressions.
Look at that. Look at that.
Oh, another one?
All right.
These are also interesting.
Unreal. This is unreal.
That's
I'm
Winona
supposed
Ryder.
to start talking. I'm sorry, I'm sick.
So watch her
On
faces.
behalf of this fearless and talented cast, we would like to thank, oh, it's so heavy. We'd like to thank Netflix, Sean, Matt, Ross, and the amazing casting director, Carmen Cuba. And I would just like to say that in light of all that's going on in the world today, it's difficult to celebrate the already celebrated Stranger Things. But this award from you, who take your craft seriously and earnestly believe, like me, that great acting can change the world, is a call to arms from our fellow craftsmen and women to go deeper. And through our art, to battle against fear, self-centeredness, and exclusivity of our predominantly narcissistic culture, and through our craft to cultivate a more empathetic and understanding society by revealing intimate truths that serve as a forceful reminder to...
Yeah, so she looks really confused that whole entire time. Maybe it was because she wasn't
Unreal. This is
expecting.
unreal. I'm supposed to...
Maybe it's because she wasn't expecting him to like go on a tangent like that. I have no idea. Nothing really. I don't know. Maybe she wasn't expecting him to have such big words. I don't know.
Yeah, I was really confused. The
Um,
other guy just starts smacking him
yeah.
on the back.
But the internet really took off with this. So we're going to watch the funny one.
The already celebrated Stranger Things, but this award from you, who take your craft seriously and earnestly believe, like me, that great acting can change the world, is a call to arms from our fellow craftsmen and women to go deeper, and through our art to battle against fear, self-centeredness, and exclusivity
That's so funny.
It's funny. All right. So again, subconscious behavior. All right. Our nonverbals are going to give us away a lot. Y'all ever try to lie to your parents and they automatically know that you're lying?
No, because you use a different face every time.
Okay. Then you're really good at handling your nonverbals, or your parents don't know how to read nonverbals. So because you can tell when somebody is lying, that's why there's a lot of detectives out there who can like solve cases based off of people's nonverbal communication.
Body language.
All right. So, no, go back. You also have to realize, are you listening? You also have to realize that nonverbal communication is very contextual. So it depends on the situation in which it occurs. So I have 3 examples for you. When we applaud somebody, what are we communicating? Hey, we're saying good job. We're saying, hey, you did a great job. Fantastic. We're giving them some sort of praise. What about if I did this?
You look like the Joker. Anybody know that? Like that part.
Now that's a little sarcastic applause, isn't it? Okay, what about if I do this? Call you back at 3. Call you back at 2.
Wait,
back at
are
1.
you using this as an example, or are you like?
I'm using it as an example because we know that when you hear me clap 3 times, y'all are trying to clap with me. We're trying to make sure that we're being quiet. Okay? You also have to realize that nonverbal communication is sometimes very ambiguous, so it's really open to interpretation. And sometimes it can be confusing because it can mean different things. A great example is somebody crossing their arms. What do we immediately think when somebody's crossing their
Sad
arms?
or mad, or frustrated, or annoyed, or they don't care, or I don't know.
But what if this is just the way I stand?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then I guess you'll be mad.
Okay? There was actually a time where, as a coach, like sometimes I just stand like this, and that's it. I'm just relaxing my body, and this is how my body relaxes. Okay?
No, you're just disappointed in all of this.
So no.
Yeah, that's what I do. And you were like,
Yeah, but this is just for some of us, this is just a relaxing stance that we take. So, for example, when I used to be a coach, I had my athletic. When I used to be a coach, when I used to coach volleyball, I had my athletic director. She came up to us and she was like, "Y'all need to stop crossing your arms when you're coaching." So, like, I'd be coaching, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, good job, yeah, oh," I'd be doing stuff like that. But she took it because it's very open to interpretation. She took me standing like that as me being like disappointed in the way my team was playing. Something like that. So like now as a coach, when I'm like coaching, I do this, I immediately go, oh nope, can't do that. Don't want to come off as bad. Okay.
You're a wrestling coach?
Yeah, I'm the wrestling coach. Okay. So it's very open to interpretation. You also have to realize that nonverbal communication can be very cultural as well. So one message in one culture might have a completely different message in another culture. Okay. So here's a couple examples for different cultures and gestures around the world.
It's well known that some gestures mean different things in different parts of the world. In some places, such as Britain, this means everything's okay, while in Brazil and other places, it's considered obscene. And in still other places, such as Japan, it means money.
I will pause this right here.
all 3 of these things are used.
Because this is a pretty, I've never heard of this, but this is actually a pretty new symbol. And it means white power.
Really? No, it doesn't.
Let's go, boys.
Immediately hold up.
Okay. So be very careful because I've always known it as, oh, everything's okay. But now it has a different meaning. So be careful, especially if you're playing that little game that y'all play where you're trying to get people to look at it. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, be careful with that because now it's a symbol for white power because of the W and the P. I don't know. So be very careful with that.
Is there all lives matter?
Yeah, it goes down your arm.
Asian life matter.
Does this one mean all lives matter and this one means Black lives matter? So it's
Yeah.
like all.
Miss, how about Asian life?
Moving on, let's watch the rest.
In Italy, they might make this sign to emphasize a point, while in Jordan, it can mean wait a second. Certain things often have gestures for them. For instance, in most places where drinking alcohol is popular, there's a sign for drinking or getting drunk. In the US, it's this. While in France, they grab and twist their nose, and in Russia, they flick their throat. On the other hand, some places have more or less unique gestures. In Russia, to say you're making things too complicated, you scratch your ear by going around the back of your head. Among the most common and probably oldest gestures are nodding for yes and shaking the head for no. But even this isn't universal. Bulgarians are famous for shaking their head to mean yes and nodding with a click of the tongue to mean no. And in South Asia, they have a third option, which involves tilting the head from side to side. It's used to acknowledge the person speaking to you, although in some contexts, it can also mean approval or even uncertainty.
Hey, so again, in different cultures, certain gestures are different and have different meanings, okay? So you have to be aware of these different meanings. Now we're going to talk about nonverbal signals, the OG emojis. Okay. So, do y'all remember me talking about back? I always say back in the day, but it really wasn't that long ago, where we didn't have emojis at all. We didn't have any emojis, so we started creating emoticons. Okay.
Back in the day.
When I first started texting, no. No. Yeah.
Google still does emoticons.
Yeah.
Okay, wrong. Not emoji.
So, y'all listen, please. Call you back in 3. Call you back 2. Call you back 1. Ladies.
You rest. Quiet.
Quiet. That's what the clapping means, is to be quiet. So we have emojis. Emojis came around because we didn't have enough emotional depth within our actual text messages to understand what was actually being said. Because again, how much is the actual words that we say? What percentage?
90.
It's only 7%. So you're only getting 7% of the message if you don't have something to supplement it. Okay? That's all you're getting. So we got into a lot of trouble back then because we didn't have anything to describe what kind of emotion we were trying to display. Okay?
I thought you were just gonna be like, we don't have, because we didn't have the emotional.
No, we had emotional
The
depth.
English language cannot fully capture the depth and complexity of my thoughts, so I'm incorporating emoji into my speech to better express myself. Winky face.
Oh, Lord.
Literally meaning picture character in Japanese, emojis are images you can select to replace words in your text messages and emails, not to be confused with emoticons, which need to be typed out. Before emojis changed the way we communicate with strangers and loved ones, we could only express ourselves through spoken words, writing, and eventually emoticons, the boring text-based precursor to emojis. The first emoticon appeared in an essay by Ambrose Bierce in 1887, who sarcastically proposed that a smiley face character should be added as a new punctuation mark. The birth of the emoticon is often credited to Carnegie Mellon computer scientist Scott Ballman, who went on a message board in 1982 and suggested a colon, dash, and close parenthesis should be used to indicate joke statements. As the internet became more and more ubiquitous in the 90s, so did emoticons. Messaging services like AOL Instant Messenger turned sideways smiley faces into corresponding images. And in 1995, Japanese telecom company NTT Docomo added a heart symbol to its Pocketbell pagers, paving the way for the official creation of the emoji in 1999 by Shigetaka Kurita, who put together 176 emojis, which would only work on NTT Docomo's network in Japan. The company wasn't able to obtain a copyright for its emojis though, so other Japanese telecoms went ahead and created their own emojis. Stateside, emojis wouldn't come into the mainstream until 2007, when Google included emoticons and emojis in GChat and Gmail. Then in 2011, Apple included emoji support in its Line operating system and a native emoji keyboard in iOS 5, propelling emojis into our everyday vernacular.
Our friendship is little boy holding little girl's hand.
Right.
The English language cannot fully capture.
All right. So there you have emojis. Like, it was super important for us, and they really haven't been around for very long. Like, it's only been 9 years since they've been around. Emoticons have been around a lot longer, but we didn't actually start using them a lot until about 2011. And it's changed. Let me tell y'all, it has changed the way we text a lot. Because it's needed. So let's talk about types of nonverbal communication. This will be our last slide before I end today.
What about video?
Okay. So there are 6 types of nonverbal communication. Make sure that you're listening, because I'm going to explain these in a very short, abridged version before I talk about them more in depth. You have number 1 is kinesics. This is anything that has to do with your body language. Okay, so this is the way you move. This is your posture. This is your facial expressions. These are your gestures. That is what kinesics is. Then you have haptics. This is how you communicate using touch.
Are we going to continue these tomorrow?
Yeah. Okay, so haptics is how you communicate through touch. So those people who are in the hallways making out with each other, how are they communicating?
That's icky.
They're communicating that they're together, okay? What's up, girl? She didn't give me a message. Okay. So, you can really use haptics to find out, like, or if you're noticing it enough, you change your haptics when you like somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You change the way you touch that person.
Oh. I mean.
Not that way. But like, your hands might linger on them a little bit longer than normal.
I mean, that face. Hey, what was that?
Okay. You
You
also have artifacts. Artifacts is anything that's on the body or anything that you use. So artifacts is like clothing. It can also be like accessories as well. Yo, stop talking right now. So artifacts is clothing. It can be an accessory that you use, like maybe your phone, or it can be like a tattoo on your body. All of those artifacts are communicating something. So if I was to be wearing a wrestling shirt, what's that going to communicate to y'all?
That you do wrestling.
Okay, that I either do wrestling, I'm involved in wrestling in some kind of way, or that I'm supporting the wrestling team.
So if I wore a Trump mask,
Okay. Number 4 is paralanguage. Paralanguage is how you say words. So do you have a stress on a word? Just like I did how, I stress the word how. Okay. Are you speaking loudly? Are you whispering? Okay. Are you changing the speed in which you're speaking? That is all paralanguage.
That was terrible.
Yeah, him giggling is paralanguage. Okay. Next, you have proxemics. Proxemics is how you use space and distance between people. So if somebody I don't like stands next to me, what am I going to do?
Disappear. I'm going to leave.
I'm going to move away from them.
I'm going to whack them.
Okay? I'm going to move away from them. If somebody I do like comes up to me, what am I gonna do?
Let's do them and give them a dab.
I'm gonna go on over there and be like, hey. Okay. Next you have, the last one is chronemics. Think chronological chronemics. Okay, this is your use. Yo, I'm still speaking. Y'all are being very rude. So chronemics, which is the last one, think chronological, okay? Think about time, because it's how you use time to communicate. So for example, if you came into my classroom every single day late, what are you communicating to me as the teacher? That you don't care, because you don't respect my time.
So what if you're not the reason why you're late?
Yeah, what if it's
Normally that's like a once in a while type of thing. But if it's every day and you walk in like, okay, like you don't care that you're late, instead of being like, hey, I'm sorry I was late. You know what I mean?
I might have to kick you.
All right. If you have not done so already, go ahead and pack up your stuff. We do have 9 minutes, but this is where I've been stopping every week for all my other classes. That is it. We will continue this tomorrow. If you are virtual, you can go ahead and log off.
I have to use my mouth for 2 days.